Hello and welcome to Marriage and the Family. I'm David Hester and I'm glad that you've decided to take this 8-week class. And we're going to be going over the introductory material for this 8-week course. And I hope that you will follow along with me. I'm sure that you have by now already looked at the Blackboard class site. If you haven't done so, I would very much encourage you to do that. It's very important that you acquaint yourself with the Blackboard class site because you're going to be using it all through the 8-week class. And it's very important that you observe everything that we're going to be requiring in this course. So, having said that, I want you to open up the syllabus if you haven't already done that on your iPad or your desktop or whatever device you're looking at this from, and you will follow along with me as we go through the requirements of marriage and the family for this 8-week course. If you have your syllabus in front of you, as I do on my desktop, the catalog description says that it is a study of mate selection, how to have a successful marriage, and principles of parenting taught from the biblical perspective. Major sociological trends and problems that impact marriage and family relations in Western society will also be observed. That's what we hope to accomplish in this course. The purpose is to acquaint you with what the Bible teaches regarding the origin and purpose of marriage and to study current research that will help you prepare for a successful marriage. Under the structure of the course on page 2 of the syllabus, it reads, since this is an 8-week online course, it is structured differently from a regular face-to-face full semester class. All of the assignments will be posted on the Blackboard class site, and all communication by the lecturer will be via email. This is very important to stress. All communication that is done with me must be through email. I can tell you that I will respond to emails almost as quickly as I receive them. I'm always checking my Faulkner email account. May I also add, while I'm thinking about it, if you do not have your Faulkner email account set up, please, by all means, do it now. It is very important that you set up your Faulkner email account if you haven't already done that. I know that many of you, this will not affect you. You're already using your Faulkner email account and that's not a problem. But there are always some in each 8-week class of this that I teach who have an issue with emails. I'm not receiving my email. I haven't seen anything. Well, maybe you're using another email account that you're not supposed to be using in communication with the instructor or with the professor. So make sure that you have your Faulkner email account set up. Always look for me as far as any emails that I send, because 9 times out of 10 I'm sending it to the whole class for a reason, and you need to take note of that. When you send me any questions through your Faulkner email account, any concerns, anything that you send, I will respond. I will respond very quickly to that. So make sure you take note of that. All communication is via email. Now we continue. The student is expected to keep up with his or her assignments and to turn them in on time. We're going to be going through the due dates and what all is expected on the assignments in just a few minutes. But that is also a very important point to stress. You keep up with your assignments. By now, many of you are perhaps juniors in college. Maybe some of you are sophomore. Maybe some of you are seniors. You've been around the block a bit as far as the university experience. And so you know that you have a responsibility yourself to keep up with what is to be turned in and to turn them in on time. In an online class as this is, where there is no regular face-to-face contact, it is so important that this be stressed, that you turn in your assignments on time, because the 8 weeks will be finished before you know it. and you don't want to wait till the very end of that 8-week period to get everything turned in. We'll talk more about that here in just a minute. Continuing in the structure of the course. Discussion board questions are designed to facilitate discussion between the students. We'll have more to say about the discussion board questions in a moment. The 3 to 5 page essay. Yes, you're going to be writing in this class. The 3 to 5 page essay is not a research paper. Let me again stress, it is not a research paper. It is to get the student to think through the question of what it takes to be a good spouse, and also to help the student express his or her thoughts in a grammatically correct, clear manner. We'll talk more about the essay in just a moment. Let me just say right here that the essay is something to help you. Believe it or not, it's designed to help you in this course, and also perhaps to help you in your writing, because if you haven't already found out, you're doing a lot of writing in college. And of course, I'm not saying anything that you don't already know, but I've been where you've been. I've sat where you've sat. Well, I haven't sat where you've sat as far as online class and undergraduate course, because way back in the Stone Age, we didn't have online course. Online courses. Now I'm beginning to sound like an old geezer. In my day, we didn't have online stuff. No, that's not it. That's not it. Still, the 3 to 5 page essay is something I think that will help you. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Course objectives. To demonstrate an appreciation of the Bible as God's blueprint for marriage. This will be evaluated by the online questions covering selected biblical passages. We'll say more about those questions in a moment. Let me just stress right here that the Bible is the foundation of everything that we do, including marriage. Believe it or not. I've been teaching this class long enough where I've seen some interesting responses to some of the things that have been said in this class in print, I should say. And you wouldn't think that, at a Christian university you'd have different responses, but you do. And we shouldn't be surprised that in a Christian university that the Bible's emphasized. Yet, over the years, some people are surprised. The Bible is the foundation for marriage? Well, yes. If God's not in the picture, then is your marriage going to be successful? Most likely not, because God is the foundation of everything, and His Word is the blueprint. It is the standard for what we do. Second objective, to identify the meaning and purpose of marriage according to the Bible. This will be evaluated by the online questions covering selected biblical passages. Third, to articulate attitudes and attributes that will make one more mature and marriageable. This will be evaluated by the 3 to 5 page essay, there's that essay again, and the discussion board questions. Fourth, to consider the importance of building a marriage relationship on love and integrity. This will be evaluated by the online questions covering the textbook by Nick and Nancy Stennett. Now, be patient with me for just a moment. I've got to get the textbook that we're using in this class. This textbook right here. Intimate Relationships, Marriages, and Families. If you do not have this textbook, you need it. You need it. It is the 9th edition, I believe. Yes, the 9th edition is the latest edition. This is what you need. You can purchase this through Amazon. Later in the syllabus, we will have the details as far as the ISBN number of this book. You need it, not just for this class. You need it because the Stennetts have done a marvelous job. Actually, it's Nick and Nancy Stennett, Mary Kay DeGeneva, and F. Philip Rice. It's published through Oxford University. This is not a cheap book. You will find that out once you start the process to order it. But it's worth every penny that you pay. This book is outstanding. And I guarantee you that after you finish this 8-week course, that you will not want to get rid of this book. You will not want to resell it, because this book has so much valuable information in it, so much to help you, that you'll want to keep it. So that's the textbook we're using besides the Bible. Then, to integrate strategies that lead to strong marriages, and this will be examined by the final exam. We'll talk more about the final exam here in a moment. Course premise, philosophy, and methodology. This is page 3 of the syllabus. Marriage is God's idea. He has provided us His plan for successful marriage in His Word. Our primary emphasis in this course will be to better understand God's plan and how that plan translates into daily life. Deciding whom to marry and when to marry have eternal ramifications. So all of us in this class should give proper priority to our study together. Comments, questions, and helpful ideas from students will be encouraged by the instructor. Now, notice please what's said in this paragraph. Marriage is God's idea. If you believe the Bible, you know that to be true. The first institution, if you want to call it that God put on this planet was marriage. Marriage. He's told us how to have a successful marriage in the Bible. And then how that plan that God sets forth translates into our own lives is very important. And then notice that sentence. Deciding whom to marry and when to marry have eternal ramifications. Have you ever thought of it like that? Deciding whom to marry and when to marry. It is a decision you make. Some of you in this class have already been married. Some for a few years, some for a long period of time. So I'm not telling you, some of you, anything that you don't already know. But there are many in this class who have not yet married. There are many in this class, I'm sure, who are not even engaged. You're still dating. Have you given serious thought into the decision that you make on your mate? Have you given serious thought in this light that it has eternal ramifications? Who you marry could determine to a certain extent where you spend eternity. That's a serious matter. So, I think that puts everything in its proper perspective, hopefully. You know, marriage is not something that you enter into, well, we'll get married, you know, it may work out, it may not work out. That's not how you enter marriage. It's a serious, serious decision with hopefully the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And when you find that person, it's truly a blessing. It's truly a treasure. I've been married to my wife come December 17th of this year. We will have been married for 30 years. We're in our 30th year of marriage. We have 2 sons. Our oldest son, William, is a preacher. He's a gospel preacher. He is preaching in Skullbone, Tennessee. You don't know where Skullbone, Tennessee. Some of you might know where Skullbone is. I don't know. Skullbone, Tennessee is northwest Tennessee, sort of northwest Tennessee. North of Jackson, if you know where Jackson is. It's north of Jackson, near Martin, Tennessee. It's actually in Bradford, the town of Bradford, but Skullbone is a suburb, if you want to call it that, of Bradford. But the point is, he has been married to his lovely wife, Sarah, since 2016. They are expecting their first child due on Thanksgiving Day, by the way. I told them as long as it's not born on the Iron Bowl, Well, you know what I'm saying. It's we're expecting the first child, a boy. It's a baby boy. It's coming on Thanksgiving Day, and they're just really tickled to death. He's just thrilled with the prospect of having a child. And it's our first grandchild. We're just really happy for them. And then our second son, our youngest son, Jonathan, is the field director for Governor Kay Ivey, the governor of Alabama. He works for her in her campaign as the field director, and enjoys his work. He was working before he went to work with the governor. He was working in Washington D.C. for America Rising, which is a GOP related political action group. Before that, he was with the BlackRock Group, which is another GOP related political action group. He met his fiancee. Yes, he is engaged. He met his fiancee, Bree Pettigo, when they were both interns for congressmen in Washington several years ago. And they began dating not long after that, and they became engaged, and they are planning to get married in May of next year. And we couldn't be happier for them. It's just a great decision they're making, and in both cases, both our sons' cases, they met the ladies that they needed to meet, and we think that's going to be a great union for both of them. I'm saying all that simply to say this: marriage can be a fantastic thing, bringing all sorts of great benefits with it. And the right person, meeting the right person, and marrying the right person is the key to all that. And I hope that's what we get across in this compacted schedule, this 8-week schedule, in what you study and what the assignments that you complete. So, getting back to our syllabus, point number 4 on page 3, netiquette expectations. There are certain guidelines that must be followed in any email or discussion board communication because of this being an online course. Now, I've included the address, the URL address to Faulkner Standard Netiquette Policy. You can download the document and read it. Then number 5, course policies, the standard eCampus policies, which cover many questions that might arise. I encourage you to look at those documents online if necessary, download them, read them carefully about integrity, online attendance, online grievance, online incomplete, and technical requirements. Some of these are already on the Blackboard site under one of the tabs on the left-hand side of the Blackboard site. Now, getting down to point number 6 on page 3, content outline. Basic content outline. Preparation for marriage, God's plan. Selection of a mate, what the Bible says about sex, sexual relations in marriage, and the best available research and concepts on marriage and marriage success. All these things will be covered in the textbook. All of these things are covered to an extent in the questions that you're going to be completing. So I would encourage you, please, to read the material very carefully, and you'll glean many great points from it. Now, required textbooks. Once again, the Bible. Obviously, that's the first and foremost textbook, if you want to call it that, for marriage. That's God's plan. Has God's plan for us as far as husbands and wives and families. Then, as we've mentioned, the textbook that is required for this course, Intimate Relationships, Marriages, and Families by Stennett, DeGeneva, and Rice. And the ISBN number is included in the syllabus where you can order this textbook online. If you have an issue getting the textbook in quickly, don't worry about it. Don't stress. As long as you get the textbook in a reasonable period of time where you can complete the assignments, that's what you need, as you're going to see here in a moment. Then selected material from me on the Blackboard website you can access through course content. On the Blackboard class site, there are several tabs. And in fact, I've just opened up the Blackboard class site. And on the left-hand side, you'll see a menu. Read me first, instructor contact, announcements, syllabus and policies, course content, assignments, tools, grades, discussion board support, and Faulkner website. Course content is where you will find the material that I refer to here, and much of the material that we're going to be talking about here in a moment. And we'll be discussing that momentarily. Suggested resources, research help, 24/7 Ask a Librarian reference assistance, electronic databases that has full text and abstracted articles, online catalogs and ebooks, contact information for additional finding aids on interlibrary loan. I would encourage you to access that resource on all of your classes, and it's a very good help indeed. Now, course requirements and evaluation. This is the main thing that we need to emphasize because of all the times that I've taught this class, this online class, I will inevitably have questions about assignments. And I need to clarify. I need you to help me understand something. Well, I'm going to do my best in the next few minutes to clearly tell you exactly what is required and how you must turn it in. So pay a lot of attention to what I'm about to tell you. Page number 4, under point 7, formal assessment is where we are in the syllabus. Please, if you have not opened up your syllabus, please do that now. Point number 8. I'm sorry, point number 8 on page 4. Point 8, page 4. Course requirements and evaluation, formal assessment. Number 1, online questions. Included will be questions covering the textbook and selected biblical passages that pertain to marriage. This will not be a test. It is open book to ensure the students are reading the material. In order to receive an A for this assignment, the student must answer correctly 90% of the questions. Now, where are the online questions located? When you go to the Blackboard class site, you go to course content, you open up course content, and the first thing that you see is chapter 1 reading questions, chapter 2 reading questions, chapter 3 reading questions, on down to chapter 17 reading questions. Those reading questions are the questions from the textbook. So, do you understand? All of the questions concerning the textbook is found under course content. Underneath chapter 17 reading questions, there is biblical text questions. Specifically, biblical text study questions is the name of the file, but it's biblical text questions. Those are the questions that I referred to right here. Questions covering selected biblical passages. So, under course content, you will find the questions concerning the textbook, 17 separate files with questions for each chapter, and selected biblical passages. That is under the biblical text questions. So, you know now where to find it. So if I get an email from anybody that says, I can't find the questions, you didn't watch the video. I'll know that you didn't watch the video. So make sure that you go to that section and look over those questions. We'll say more about that here in a moment, about how to turn it in. Number 2, essay. This will be a 3 to 5 page double-spaced essay. Do you understand that? 3 to 5 pages, which means it must be at least 3 full pages. That is to say, you turn in 1 page, that's not enough. You turn in 2 pages, that's not enough. You turn in 2.5 pages, that's not enough. You must turn in at least 3 full pages to meet the length requirement. 3 to 5 pages, double spaced. I can't tell you how many times over the years and when I've been teaching all sorts of classes, when I will require a double-spaced essay or a double-spaced manuscript, you would be surprised at the number of students that will turn in a single-spaced essay or a single-spaced manuscript. It must be double-spaced. Have I stressed that enough? 3 to 5 pages double-spaced. On the topic, what does it take to be a good spouse? Notice, please, that topic. What does it take to be a good spouse? You can address that topic in a lot of different ways. You can address it from your personal standpoint. You can address it from the vantage point of one who is married. You can address it from the vantage point of one who is engaged. You can address it from the standpoint of the male. You can address it from the standpoint of the female. Or you can even possibly interview your parents or grandparents whom you respect highly and see what they have to say. That would be a good idea for an essay for you. You approach it however you want to approach it. It's not a research paper. It's your thoughts. I want to know what you think, what you conclude. Now, it says, in order to receive an A for the assignment, the student must meet the requirements of the rubric that is posted on the Blackboard class site under course content. The essay rubric is located under course content on the Blackboard site just below the biblical text questions. The essay rubric must be followed. And I'm about to open up that rubric. And I will read it to you when it opens up totally. There it is. Let me do this. There we go. Now, essay rubric. Once you open it up, you will see on the left-hand side it says criteria, and then on the top it says levels of achievement, and then there are columns: novice, competent, and proficient. Formatting weight is 33%. Organization weight, 34%. Grammar weight, 33%. It must be double-spaced, 3 to 5 pages in length, 12 font times New Roman. If you have double-spaced 12 font times New Roman, that's 100% proficient. Organization, you address the question. You give both sides of the question, if applicable. And then you give your opinion concerning the question. Under grammar, run-on sentences and or sentence fragments are major deductions. Make sure you do not have run-on sentences or sentence fragments. Persistent spelling and or grammar errors. I am meticulous on spelling and grammar. Make sure you go over your essay carefully and you don't have any grammar errors or any spelling errors. Make sure that your nouns and pronouns agree. A singular noun takes a singular pronoun. A plural noun takes a plural pronoun. A singular noun does not take and never will take a plural pronoun. Now you might think he's a grammar Nazi. Yes. No, I just really am a stickler for correct grammar. And especially when you were in college or university, you've got to know how to write and write competently. This is in part designed to help you. And I will point out when I grade your essay, I will make notations, notes, where I will explain why something's being counted off or try to explain fully what my reasoning is. So make sure that you go through it carefully. Then, sentences are clearly understandable, overall thoughts fit together and make sense, and it's just a well-written paper. I have full confidence that all of you can write a good paper. Don't stress over it. As long as you just go over it carefully, you should be fine. You should make, every one of you should make an A on the essay. I expect an A everybody to make. And it's not really that difficult when you really put your mind to it. So don't stress too much over that. All right, discussion board. There will be 4 questions posted during the 6 weeks. Actually, 8 weeks. I just now caught that. I've got to make that correction. 4 questions posted during the 8 weeks. I will make that correction on the syllabus. So by the time you see this, the correction's already there. Students are required to answer them and engage in discussion via this method. In order to make an A on this assignment, the student must respond in a 6 to 8 sentence paragraph to each question and reply to at least 3 fellow students in each thread, which means a brief 1-sentence reply to a discussion board question will not cut the cake. You've got to put at least 6 to 8 sentences. So that's very important. The discussion board questions are important for another reason, and we will emphasize that here in just a moment. The final exam will cover specified questions from the PowerPoint material that I have put under course content. Again, you go to course content and you scroll down underneath the essay rubric. You will see, does your home abide in the doctrine of Christ, the Bible in the home, and what have they seen in thine house? That, or those 3 PowerPoint presentations, are what the final exam is based on. The format will include true, false, and multiple choice items. And it is open notes. Open notes. So you don't have to stress as much over the final exam. Now, course grading. Determination of the final grade will be based on the final exam, the online questions, the essay, and discussion board. When grades are averaged, I will round to the nearest whole number. I will not give a point when averaging scores. The following scale will be used to determine final grades: 90 to 100 A, 80 to 89 B, and so on. Then the unit level weekly objectives. Week 1, you identify what you expect from this course by replying to the discussion board. Now, that discussion board question that is likely already up on the class website by the time you see this video. This is not one of the graded discussion board questions, but you need to respond to it. So I know that you have logged into the class and that you are engaged. Tell us something about yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what have you. Week 2, analyze how society views marriage by responding to the first discussion board question. That is the first graded discussion board question. You can also begin work on your essay. Week 3, explain how Hollywood's view of marriage is different from the biblical standard by replying to the second discussion board question. Continue to work on your essay. Work on answering the online questions. Week 4, anticipate what problems you foresee in the future for marriage by answering the third discussion board question. Continue to work on your essay and online questions. Week 5, describe the ideal marriage by responding to the final discussion board question. If you haven't already finished your essay and online questions, make sure you get them finished by this point so you won't be swamped at the end of the module. Start preparing for the final exam by studying the PowerPoints. Week 6, develop the qualities of what an ideal spouse should have by turning in the finished essay, which is due this week. Finish your online questions. Continue to study for the final. Week 7, demonstrate your understanding of the textbook by turning in the answers to the online questions, which is due this week. Continue to prepare for the final exam. And then week 8, summarize what the Bible has to say about marriage and the family by turning in answers to the final exam, which is due this week. Now, course calendar. You're saying, okay, all these assignments, when are they due? How do you compute attendance? This paragraph explains. Since this is an online 8-week course, the deadlines are different from the traditional semester course. Thus, it is even more imperative that you take responsibility to turn in all work on time. On time. There are no weekly due dates except for the discussion board questions. Now, I told you I was going to explain a little bit further about the discussion board questions. If you go to the Blackboard class site, under Read Me First, there are 2 things that I've written that you need to take note of. The first says important. To all students, all communication from me to you is done through your Faulkner email. If you do not have your Faulkner email account set up, it is vital that you do so now. We've already covered that. Then the second point, discussion board. Important. The discussion board questions each week record your participation in this class. It is vital that you answer each question as it is posted each week. Your attendance in this class is based on it. I cannot stress that enough. Your attendance in this class is based on the discussion board, which means, getting back to the syllabus, in the schedule on week 1, when it says you reply to the discussion board by telling us a little bit about yourself, it's not something that's optional. It is obligatory for your attendance. To know that you are present in this class, you must respond to that first discussion board or the initial one, because I will take attendance based on that. And then week 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are the 4 graded discussion board questions, those also tally your attendance for that particular week. So make sure you respond to the discussion board questions those first 5 weeks, because they will determine your attendance or non-attendance in this class. And they are worth 50 points each, not including the initial discussion board, but discussion boards 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are worth each 50 points. Now, let me also explain. The discussion board questions are weekly, that is, weekly assignments, which is to say you have until 5 o'clock on Friday of that particular week to turn in your answer to the discussion board. If you submit your discussion board answers after the due date, which is Friday of that same week, 5 o'clock Friday, points will be deducted. So make sure you turn it in. If, say, you turn in the response to discussion board 1 following or after that week, after the due date, which is 5 o'clock Friday of that week, if you turn it in after that, there will be automatically 5 points deducted. That's 10% of what you could make. The longer you wait to turn in the answer to the discussion board, the more points will be deducted. So make sure you get your discussion board questions, responses to them in on time so you won't have points deducted. If you wait until the very end of the 8 weeks, number one, you're going to have problems with attendance. You're going to run into problems with the registrar because they will be in contact with you if you haven't been turning in your discussion board questions. But not just that, you will have problems in the sense that you won't receive a lot of credit on points for the discussion board questions. So make sure you respond to those questions promptly and that you turn them in on time. So I hope that explains the attendance rationale in this class and the importance of the discussion board. Make sure you do that. Now, having said that, all other work is due on the dates that are specified. You may turn in your work at any point before the due dates. All work is to be submitted through Blackboard under the assignment section. Do not send your answers to the textbook questions or your responses to the biblical passage questions or the final exam. Do not send them in to me by email. I will not accept it. It is to be done through Blackboard, through the assignment section. If you have any issues, contact me. I'll be happy to help you. September 28th is when the essay is due by 5 o'clock. That is the 3 to 5 page essay on how to be a good spouse. It is due on September 28th by 5. October 5th is when the answers to the online questions, that is all of the online questions, the biblical text questions and the textbook questions, they are all due on October 5th. Now, it's very important to emphasize Because I inevitably have students that say, are the online questions due every week? Or the chapter questions? No, they're not due every week. They're due on October 5th. You can turn them in anytime before October 5th, as long as you get them in by October 5th. Do you understand what I'm saying? The only weekly assignments are the discussion board questions. Everything else is due on these dates. The essay, September 28th. The online questions, which consist of the biblical text questions and the textbook questions, due October 5th. Now, if you're smart, and all of you are, if you're smart, you will be working on your online questions and turning them in as you finish them, because that is the smart way to handle it, not wait till the very, very end. October 12th, final exam is due by 5 o'clock. Now, let me also emphasize about the final exam. You will not find the final exam on the Blackboard class site. If you look for it, you won't find it. It's not there, okay? So if I get an email from any of you saying, I can't find the final exam, you haven't watched the video. Because I'm telling you right now, the final exam is not on the Blackboard class site. Notice on the syllabus it says the final exam will be emailed to you a week ahead of the due date. It will be open notes. Now, that also means that if you don't have your Faulkner email set up, you won't be receiving the final exam. You've got to get your Faulkner email set up and going, and make sure you are receiving my messages. If you are not, you won't see the final exam. It may go into your junk folder. So make sure that you've got it set up where you can see the messages that I send to the class, because I will send the final exam out a week ahead, which means you will be receiving the final exam on October 5th. You'll be receiving it October 5th. It is due October 12th by 5 o'clock. I will not accept any work after 5 o'clock October 12th. Let me emphasize that again. I will not accept any work after October 12th at 5 o'clock. I want to be clear about that. Because of the nature of this class, an 8-week class, the cutoff on this is hard. That is hard and fast. I can't accept anything after the due date, after the final due date. So make sure you take note of that. I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with that. I'm just always have to emphasize it. And contact information there at the end of the syllabus, my email, my office number if you're if you're on campus and you want to come by my office, if I'm in my office, and I normally am a couple of days out of the week at least, stop by and I'll be glad to talk with you. My phone number is also listed there in case you want to contact me directly. If I'm not in my office, you can leave a message and I will receive it. But the quickest way and the best way to contact me where I will respond to you is by email. As I've emphasized previously, I check my email constantly. Drives my wife up the wall sometimes. But I have to. I have to check my email all the time, because I get emails from students, I get emails from the dean, I get emails from different teachers. I have to be checking it constantly. So if you want to contact me where I'll respond quick, email me, and I'll be more than happy to respond. Okay, so if you have any further questions, and I don't see how you could, but I'm sure there are those that would have them. If you have any further questions, contact me, and I'll be glad to give any assistance that I possibly can. I am certainly glad that you've taken this course, and I hope that you learn a lot about marriage and the family, about how to have a great marriage, and how to make your marriage stronger in God's sight. So, good luck to you, and I hope every one of you make 100 on this course. You all can do it if you put your mind to it. And hope you have a great 8 weeks. Thanks.